Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Digitalk Architects. With us today, we have Brian Hanley. Brian, welcome to the show. Please tell us about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. So I'm Brian Hanley. I am the CEO/CMO of Boombox Ads, which is a marketing agency that specializes in working with cybersecurity firms. We help cybersecurity startups and even established companies go to market, establish market dominance and really secure their place in the overall cybersecurity ecosystem. So I work with companies that do anything from HIPAA compliant MDR to disaster recovery, work with MSP, marketing to MSPs, and everything in between.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into the conversation from marketer to marketer. Let's talk about your experience in the B2B marketing ecosystem. How did you get here?
Yeah, so I came here like anyone by mistake. So I started off as a mortgage broker right out of college. I was studying to be pre-med and I realized I don't want anything to do with blood. And I was like, all right, I have to find some kind of job that my parents will still be proud of me to say that their son is doing this. I said, I'll be a banker. And that's how I got into mortgages. My first big boy job was at JP Morgan Chase as a mortgage banker. And, I did it for about 20 years. And over the course of time, I started my own company. I started my own mortgage brokerage. And my co-founder and I divvied up the tasks of like how we're going to run the company. So he got operations and I got sales and marketing. And I wasn't really that good at it or knew that much about it at the time. This is 2016. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll figure this out. And while I was doing that, I realized like I really do love marketing. I love being able to write copy that makes people take action and going like that. And also it came at a good time because I was starting to get a little bit disillusioned with the mortgage space. I'd been through 2008. I'd been through like a lot of changes. I'm in New York City, so I've seen the market grow and all this. But I was like, running around chasing paperwork, sending faxes, all this stuff is a bit much. So,
I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah.
Would you believe me that if I tell you that I was actually also a mortgage broker
Oh,
during
wow.
the 2008
No.
market? I was actually a financial advisor / mortgage broker. So,
Oh, wow.
So I know exactly what you're referring to. Funny enough, I did that for a little while. My passion has always been in technology and marketing, but passion, technology, right? That's how I got into. So I went to school for webmaster, and then I was finishing school, and then I got offered to go work for. I was working for an insurance company, and then I got offered to go do the licensing for insurance and investments. And I'm like, why not? So I kind of stopped the technology thing and I went and tried that. And I did that for a few years until I got pregnant and had kids. And then it was too, I was going to say, like, the time investment was like too big. Because you're all over the place. Meetings go because you're meeting clients. You have to meet them in the evening. And I had 2 babies. It was just so anyway. So 2000. So I started around 2007, 2008, and then I had my 2 kids. So by mid 2011 is when I said I'm not doing this anymore.
Wow.
And I kind of quit the insurance, investments, and mortgages to stay home with my 2 babies.
Beautiful.
And then when my kids were old enough to go back, not to go back, but to start school, then I decided to go back to school and relearn technology.
Wow.
And go back to what I really loved. And that's how I ended up here.
No, that's amazing, man. That's amazing. Kudos to you for staying home. I know that's a huge, huge and very brave move, So that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, like I was at the point where I was like, I don't have any other skills. Like, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna like ever leave? Back in 2016, I was like, how am I ever gonna leave this? And it took me another number of years until I finally did. But I was like, I don't know how to do anything else. So I started to get good at marketing, and I was like doing the marketing for our company and using that to bring customers in and to help our company grow. And we had mixed results. I was still like a novice, but like you, I did kind of go back to school of sorts, which is I took, I would invest money in marketing courses, like how to do
Yeah,
direct copy, how to be a
that's
good
exactly how I did
marketer,
it.
how to write ads, how to do creative. I read every Dan Kennedy, everything. I read all the Claude Hopkins, Eugene Schwartz. I just devoured all that stuff.
That's awesome.
And that really helped, because like of all the things that I learned, the best things were like the classics, the Eugene Schwartz, the Claude Hopkins, the Dan Kennedy,
Dan Kennedy, I have
like
that one.
all of those I still use every day to this day. And then I've taken like so many courses. And then also what I did too was, like, in the course of it, I knew that, like, at one point I got hired by a technology company, like a tech company that did marketing, or a marketing tech company. It was a digital marketing agency that was really good at technology. And so I was like, okay, I don't know anything about technology, but I can learn. So I learned how to code. I taught myself Python. I taught myself JavaScript, and so on and so forth. And then eventually I was like, you know what? Let me learn, like, it seems like AI is becoming important. Let me learn data. This is years and years ago. As I went to a
Yeah.
data science boot camp to learn how to build AI models and learn how to like work with data and all that. Now, I cannot build an AI model at all, but I at least know how they're built, and I know
Enough to be dangerous, right?
yeah, I know exactly. I know enough to be dangerous. I know how the things work, and all of that, and that ends up being
Same
really,
here.
really helpful, because that allowed me, once I had finished the data science boot camp, and I had also had a lot of experience marketing. I'd worked at a marketing agency. I went from like a floor sales rep to vice president, and I ended up getting hired at a Y Combinator startup as their marketing director, and then I got promoted to their head of marketing. And so I worked there for a while, and like, startup years are like, one startup year is like 10 professional years. So I went from marketing director to head of marketing, and I did everything. I did all the branding, all of the copy, all the creative, all the brand strategy, everything in there, and took them from, you know, less than a dozen clients to acquired by Citricom. So, that was an awesome and wild ride. I'll forever be grateful to the Telev team for taking a chance on me. And from there, I learned how to take the rudiments of marketing, and kind of take them to the stratosphere.
Awesome. Who would have thought that our stories were so similar? Because when I said, so I was working for the insurance company, right? While I went to school for webmaster, right? So I was doing school and working in the insurance company. So a lot of the experience I had was insurance, but a lot of what I was learning was web stuff, web development, all that, right? So then that's why I went the insurance way, right? When I
Mhm.
was still in school, because I'm like, well, I already have a lot of experience here. Let's try this, right? But then I could never give up on my passion, right? Technology,
Mhm.
since I was really young, was always, kind of like what was always in my mind. And then when I decided to stay home and my kids started school, it was kind of my opportunity to kind of research and start from scratch, right? So I took that opportunity to just go back to, not literally school, but go back and relearn the technology stuff, and the meta and the web design, web development. And then that I was doing freelancing. Then I got a really good job, kind of the same path in a sense that you had, where I went to work for a very small company that kind of grew really fast. And that's and I became their CEO, CMO, right? And I was kind of growing the team, but also doing a lot of the managing the projects. And so our paths are somewhat similar.
Wow.
And then when I left that company, that's when I started Digital Architects. And just like you, a lot of, because we were because I was coming from a web development, app development agency, they were both a web and a marketing agency. I had the background experience for B2B SaaS and all that stuff. So a lot of what we started doing at Digital Architects was in the IT, cybersecurity, SaaS. We had a lot of experience in ed tech. So we took kind of that same approach, which is similar to where you're at. The difference is you kind of took it and focused a lot on copy and advertising. We do the 360 approach to marketing. So we manage web design, development, SEO, paid ads, social media, right? Production, multimedia, video, and digital assets. So slightly different paths, but at the same time, very similar in how things happen.
That's amazing. You really never know what somebody's story might be, because like their LinkedIn or their resume says one thing, but it never will say the full the full story, because I never imagined that I would ever leave mortgages and finance and all that, and now I don't think I can ever really go back.
Go back. No, I like this too much. So
Yeah,
let's
same.
talk marketing specifically, from your experience, advertising, digital advertising for cybersecurity and SaaS companies. Let's talk about their challenges, especially like we were talking before. It's difficult because you and I both know from running our marketing agencies, when you're talking B2B, almost always we're defaulting to everybody just gets tunnel vision and goes LinkedIn, LinkedIn, LinkedIn. And you have a different experience, which I love for you to share with us, because, although I felt a little bit the same pains, you've been able to take that experience and kind of rechannel that into other ways of advertising and being successful with advertising for B2B.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Like I really appreciated our conversation just now. You find that I think one of the big challenges that a lot of B2B SaaS founders have, first of all, is figuring out if what they solve is what people are willing to pay for and what they want. So that's like step 0. Can you create something that people want and that they're willing to actually come out of their pocket for? Because I've seen countless, I've spoken at many conferences, been all around the country at conferences and all that stuff. And I can't tell you how many founders I've met who are like, oh yeah, well, we have X amount of users. We have dozens of users, hundreds of users, thousands of users who are all on free trial. And you're like, okay, that's great. But the fact is, if you're getting a free trial for feedback, okay, but you're never going to get as good of a feedback as you would from somebody who's already paid for your product and is pissed. Then you're going to get what's really wrong with your product. When somebody's using it for free, it's like, it's nice, it's good, it'll help your investors, show you have traction and so forth. So that's step 0. Build something that people like. That's the biggest challenge I see people find.
When you're getting a free trial, your level of tolerance for small annoying things, it's a lot more.
Right. It's a lot higher.
Because you're willing to compromise free for, hey, this isn't working properly, right?
Right. And if we're being honest, founders, right, that part of the reason why you do the free trial is like, of course you want to show traction and all this, but you're a little bit scared. You're scared. And I've been on a startup team. I know the fear. You're scared that if you do it and put it out there and it doesn't work, that something's wrong with you personally. But that's not true. Just a matter of like keeping trying and doing that. And like a lot of folks, founders, everybody is afraid to ask for the money. Be like, listen, it costs $400 a month. Pay it. If it messes up, okay. Like you just got to keep moving, because you'll never fix your product until you have people breathing down your neck saying, this isn't working and why is it da, da, da. Like that's part of That's part of the dance of business. Like you have to learn how to deal with customers not getting what they expected. And also it's not like no one is so genius that it's never going to happen. It's going to happen, and that's how you learn. It's how you get a good product. Like no product starts out perfect. So okay, so that's step zero. But in term as it pertains to marketing, right? A lot of B2B SaaS folks and B2B people in general think that LinkedIn is like the holy grail for marketing online. But I would challenge you to answer this. Show me the startup that got their unicorn valuation solely off of LinkedIn ads. Like it's gonna be fewer. I'm sure they're out there, but it's definitely gonna be less than ones who are getting it off of Google and Facebook, and particularly Facebook or Meta as it's now called. The reality is you can test your messaging, you can test your marketing strategy, you can test all those things on Meta at a much smaller scale and a much smaller investment than on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, the stakes are so high. Every time there's an impression of your message and your brand on LinkedIn, that's your entire brand reputation in a professional, format is there.
Mhm.
Whereas on Facebook, of course, your brand is your brand no matter where you are, and it's all important. But there's a little bit more play because people aren't there for work purposes. They're there for something else. So, and also, if you can make it on, if your ad can make it on Facebook, you can make it anywhere else in terms of like your messaging. Of course, you have to format it for each platform, but like if you have
Right.
messaging that works on Facebook, you can scale that to other places, and that's where you can really test and lean on the targeting and stuff like that. Like LinkedIn is great, but LinkedIn costs sometimes 3 times as much as any of the other platforms,
It's true.
and
It's so
it's the
expensive.
same exact customer. So many SaaS folks have said to me, "No, but my customers are not on Facebook." I'm like, "Really? What do you mean though?" Because think of it. How many things do we have to go to Facebook for? We have to go to Facebook to find out what time is church. We have to go to Facebook to find out whose pictures are up from the baby shower. We have to go to Facebook to find out all these different things, right? Even some of our old groups, like let's say it's your college reunion, the group is most likely on Facebook. So you got to go there
100%.
for all these things. So
And
you can't
honestly,
say,
I still use Facebook groups more than I do anything else,
yeah, exactly.
right?
Or also like, oh, my kids grown out of their ice skates. We need new ones for the season. You're going to go to Facebook Marketplace. So like,
Marketplace
right? Like,
and
let,
Instagram to see pictures and
and
stories and
exactly. And so it's not to say that like only old people use Facebook or only this person. Everybody uses it in some capacity. It's like guys, it's one of the most valuable companies in the world. Most
everybody
human
uses
beings are
Meta,
using it.
whether
Yeah.
it's Facebook or Instagram. Facebook for the older older
Hmm.
crowd or
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
younger crowd with Instagram. But like I see my kids are all the time in
Yeah.
Instagram, just like
Yeah.
probably just as much as they are in TikTok,
But a lot
right?
of times I'll talk to my founders and they're like, uh, nobody uses Meta anymore. Okay, why? Because I don't use Meta anymore. Okay, fine, show me. But when you actually analyze everything, they do use it. They use it all the time for all the
I
things we
agree.
just said.
Yeah.
So even if somebody isn't spending a ton of time on Meta, they're still on there. And if you come to them with the right messaging and the right hook and the right creative, you will be able to convert. I've seen it time and again over these last probably 5 or 6 years.
See, I see. So one thing I've seen as a trend in my observation of like people I follow and what's going on in the digital space is that almost all of them are putting out their messages everywhere. Yes, the formatting is slightly different from one to the other to the other. But almost always they put similar content on all platforms. And so I'm seeing from a lot of the people I'm following, I see them on Instagram, I see them in TikTok, I see them in Facebook. But then I go and I see something similar to what they posted on in those social media networks, and I go find something related to it, and it's
Yes.
slightly different. Like, so for instance,
Yes.
I follow this guy. He's a sort of like a SEO expert slash developer, AI in automations guy, puts a lot of content. So he has specific content. He's long form content that's fantastic in YouTube. He's creating shorts for YouTube, and he's creating the exact same for TikTok and Instagram. But then you go to LinkedIn, and he has a newsletter, which is still, slightly different formatting, but it's still the exact same content. He's formatted to be a newsletter slash post, right? That has the same content as everything else, but in written format with the video embedded in it, right? And so he's repurposing that same long form video from YouTube to be everywhere, including LinkedIn. Very successful.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
But he's showing up everywhere. So I think the point, and you and I think we both agree, is be, obviously have your favorite if you must, but be everywhere. At the end of the day, you're capturing the entire market in a sense. In some cases, some might be more popular in one than the other, but you're still everywhere. So wherever they go, they're going to find you, right?
Yeah,
And they're going to see you.
I'll tell you something funny that I thought of the other day. This is maybe a few months ago, and I was sitting and I was like, man, I really want to get more practice writing ads, or more practice writing copy. I wish there was somewhere where I could just write ads and post them for free, where I don't have to you every time you run ads, you have to pay. And then I realized, like, duh, like, what am I thinking? Any one of these platforms, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, any one of them is a place where you can go and create something enticing and post it for free. And that's what got me started on creating content. At one point I was doing like 5 pieces of content a day, but I've kind of dialed it back now. Now that the school year has started, but I'm still trying to do at least something every day, because if for nothing else, if you are a business owner or a marketer, this is a chance to every day write an ad for free that you don't have to pay for. But we're living in a golden era right now for sending out messaging.
And then you combine that with, you do your organic posting, you do boosting to those that you think are going to perform, see how much traction they're getting, which then you convert into your main ad if the engagement is there. In the you do all your A/B testing and whatever, and then you have your numbers to decide whether it's a good post that then can become an ad.
Right.
Then you go and put a lot of money behind it, right?
Exactly. Some of the best organic posts, that seem organic are actually ads, and so like that's like another thing to kind of like be mindful of. Like, a lot of times folks who are doing this all day long and are running influencers, running brands and so forth, they're creating so many posts per day, and then whichever one gains traction, then they sponsor that, or like create a whole campaign off of one successful post. So that's another way people can go at things.
Let's go back a little bit to objections from tech companies, because you said there's always like bad, right? What are those bots usually like in your conversations?
You're saying they're always bots?
Yeah, okay. So going back to objections, when you're making the case for, let's do this instead of LinkedIn.
Yeah. I mean, of course, like the classic, my customers aren't on LinkedIn because I'm not on LinkedIn. That's always number one, right? And number two is, folks will say, well, I'm familiar with LinkedIn. I know how LinkedIn works and I know how it is. So, that's why I would rather use that. And a lot of times, the crazy objection of like, well, I don't understand how Meta or Google will work for me. Google usually not so much, because people, for now, at this point, folks understand how the Google platform works. Yeah. So they'll just be like, I'm unfamiliar with it, and how I've overcome that is I say, okay, look, let's do this. Let's take Google, which which you're familiar with, and let's use that to test messaging. let's go. And instead of saying, like, with Google, as you go further down the funnel, it's going to be higher the cost per click, because you can do top of funnel with long tail keywords, which cost less. And then as you taper down the funnel, it costs more. So to get a bottom of funnel query is going to cost you higher. So I say, look, let's start with top and middle of funnel keywords that are going to cost us less. And then how we're going to get the customer is not to say, we're going to try to sell them the thing. We'll say, let's do a top to middle of funnel campaign. And instead of selling them the actual product, let's sell them a consultation, or let's sell them a lead magnet. Let's sell them a quiz funnel. Let's sell them, something that they can take away, where we're going to get their information, but they're going to leave with way more value than the email or phone number that they just gave us, and then from there. So when you run like that, and you have messaging that's working, now you can take that same messaging and run it on Meta and say, all right, in Google, you're going by keyword, but now in Meta, you're freeform, so your creative and your headline and your copy have to draw the person in. But you can do the same top and middle of funnel play, where you're like, look, come in for the quiz funnel, come in for the lead magnet, come in for whatever, and then you can like go from there and then follow up with them and turn them into customers. A lot of times, folks are like B2B SaaS founders are more apt to say, all right, let's try it on Google first, test the messaging, find messaging that works, and then put it into Meta. Because what they're thinking is, this marketer who doesn't care, and whether it makes money or not is still getting paid, is going to take this money, run it on Meta. It's going to go into the ether because only grandmas use it, and I'm going to waste my Series A money or my seed funding or whatever that I have to guard like a hawk. That's what they're thinking, But the reality is that's not exactly the case. So you got to show them like, okay, let's test our messaging, let's figure out the messaging, in a low cost way. And when that works, not if, when that works, right, then we take it over to Meta and get conversions at a much lower and consistent way.
Awesome. So let me ask you this question. When you are talking to your B2B customers, IT, cybersecurity, we talked about ed tech, because, they're kind of like, they have this tunnel vision, LinkedIn, right? They've never tried anything beyond Google. So Meta, it's sort of like no data, no experience. How do you go and make a case, right, when there is no data behind? They've never had any kind of campaign, so there's no history. But the history that they have from LinkedIn, it's not great.
Yeah. So typically, like in this kind of way, and I had this with my startup that got acquired, this exact issue. And more or less, right, like, here's what I do know, because I've been running Facebook ads for a long time, and I know that I can run a test. I know that, like, by the time I get a few thousand impressions on an ad, whether it be a lead generation ad or a brand awareness ad. Well, brand awareness is more than a few thousand, but relatively speaking, I know that, or traffic, right? Traffic objective. I know that within a few thousand impressions, I can tell if the copy is resonating or not, right? So like by a few thousand, for me, I can do it within 5,000 impressions. If you're just starting, it might take more. Typically for me, it's like more like 1,000 or 2,000. I know if it's resonating or not. But
what are the telling points? Like,
yeah, so basically, the first thing, like when I'm in that first few thousand impressions, I'm trying to see, are people reading this ad and doing anything? Is it resonating? So I go to the click-through rate and then the click-through rate all, right? There's two different click-through rates. So as long as I'm above 1.5% on the click-through rate and above maybe like 1.8% on the click-through all, then I know something's happening. People are clicking on the headline is working and the creative are working in some capacity at a minimum, right? So that's like by 5,000 impressions, if your click-through rate is below 1%, is not working, right? Now,
Okay.
with Facebook, to get the first 5,000 impressions, it's going to cost on a traffic ad, it's going to cost you less than $100, you know?
Yeah.
So I know, so I'll say to them, like, look, man, you know, how much do you spend on a pair of headphones like this, right? Probably $100. I will bet you,
Okay.
right? If we cannot get anything done, I will buy you a pair of headphones, you know, or something like that, right? Like I'll buy a pair of slippers or
Yeah.
whatever, and say like, look, within $100, I'll be able to know whether this is resonating or not. Not that you'll get customers, because you can't sell them like you're going to get a customer off $100. That's the wrong way to go, right?
Yeah.
You say like, look, within $100, I can tell you that this is working or this is not working. You can't risk $100 to take your valuation from sub 1 million to 10 million. I think you can afford it. You know, like something in
That. Yeah.
that kind of vein. Like that's typically, I was like, look, if $100 is too much to test whether you can like actually scale this and grow your company, then we may not be a match for each other, you know, to be realistic with you.
Period.
So and like a lot of times the founders that I've worked with have been venture backed, so that argument works. I've also worked with founders who are bootstrapped, and it's the same thing. And I'm like, look, man, you know, instead of saying like I'll buy you a headphones, I'd be like, I will give you the $100 back out of my own pocket, right? Like, because that's like they're like thinking like, oh, you know, this is
That's
affecting
basically
me,
your guarantee,
right?
right?
So and what you're proving here is not that you'll get them the customer per se in that moment. What you're proving is that they can trust you to know whether what you're doing is going to work or not. Because they're startup founders. They're not averse to risk in that way. What they are averse to is wasting money on things that don't work. If they
Work.
feel
Yeah.
like you're just, you know, riding a wild horse on the ocean, right? Then it's like they're going to be like, no, right? But if you can establish to them, listen, I can, and you show them the numbers. A lot of them are very numbers driven. You show them like, look, we got 1,000 impressions. Of that 1,000 impressions, 15 people clicked. That's a good thing, you know? That means because it's possible that if you make a bad ad, that like, you know, and within
Somebody
1,000,
might click.
at least one person will click, but you're not going to get 15, you know? So if it's resonating, you know, within that quick test, okay, it's working or it's not working. Hey, this ad was bad. Hey, I'm sorry. You know what? I owe you a headphones, whatever. Let's try again, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so here's one objection that I get when talking LinkedIn versus other platforms, specifically Meta. Audience,
Mhm.
right? When you're looking at LinkedIn, you know, it lets you pick job titles, a bunch of things that you can't necessarily pick in something like Meta.
Yeah, of course.
So how do you handle that
Yeah. So
objection?
that's a great question. And so Meta is obviously a little different. You can't pick job titles, but what you have to start thinking to yourself is, what are the characteristics? Like Meta is a more of a characteristic based
Hmm.
setup, right? So what are the
Interests.
characteristics of my customers? And that does come from knowing your customers. If you're still running free trials, make sure you're pinging that customer to find out everything about them that you can, because you have to really care about them and really understand where they're coming from. So for example, let's say, you know, like I was telling you, I'm working on a project with managed detection and response, right?
Hmm.
So I know that depending on what size your company is, it's going to be a different job title. So let's say a middle market, right? That's probably going to be like a CIO, a CTO, possibly a CISO, but CISO would be for maybe more bigger companies, or maybe not, or it could be head of IT or whatever, right? So all these different types of
Yeah.
folks are the job titles. So now what I have to figure out is, if I were to target that on Meta, right, I have to say, okay, what is this person like? What are they into, right? So like on that, within Meta, you could start off with the biggest category, which is like IT, right? Shown interest in information technology. So I'd say that, then I'd filter down and say also shows interest in cybersecurity. So that'll give me so many millions of people or hundreds of thousands and stuff like that. And then from there, like let's say I'm going after like a HIPAA compliant MDR, right? So then from there, I would say, okay, shows interest in healthcare, into whatever, right? So that's like the big filter stuff, right? Now, what you also need to do is like hard brass tacks characteristics that they're going to have. Like, are they going to, people have, like, you can filter things by like how many kids would they probably have, what is their level of education, what types of things are they into, are they going to like be part of an association that deals with security, or deals with HIPAA, or deals with HIPAA security, or stuff like that. So, like, for example, with MSPs, right?
Yeah.
Like, when I target MSPs, I do all that. I say interested in IT, interested in business ownership, interested in entrepreneurship, right? Because they're MSP owners. But then when I get down
Yeah.
to the brass tacks things, I say, well, the MSP is a business owner, which means that they're going to be like a Facebook business page account admin, right? They're going to
100%.
be,
Yeah.
right? Like, they're going to be like a new, like, owner of whatever, right? Like, so I take all these things and I put them together, and that's how I get around filtering for job title, because I know if you are a CTO, you are going to have these certain things that Facebook does have the characteristic for you to pick up on.
Awesome. Okay, let's move on to another topic that you and I have talked about in the past, which is the intersection between, you mentioned it earlier, you're super familiar with technology, but we're the intersection of marketing automations, AI, and you've done some work around this, and so have I. So how are you implementing your tech background with your marketing systems and what you do in your company now?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, there's a lot of tools that require coding that a lot of folks wouldn't necessarily look at. That's really helped me in my career. So, I use a lot of automation that I like will custom code. And I'm not talking any crazy like developer stuff, but just like easy scripts that you can create in Python and JavaScript. So like one of the things I do a lot of stuff with Twilio for SMS marketing. And then I also use slide broadcasts for ringless voicemail, right? So with those, you have to do a lot of like data stuff, cleaning the data and so forth. So I'll do a lot of that stuff manually, and then I'll automate them with Python. But then when it comes to AI and stuff like that, I definitely heavily use a lot of the new AI tools, aside from just Chat GPT, which is like, it's just good for copy and ideation. I definitely have been using Lovable for like for landing page concepts and stuff like that. And just a quick note, as of today, November 18th, 2025, if you are using Lovable for your landing pages, Google Ads will not accept it because it sees Lovable as malicious software. So you're better off sticking
No
with whatever
way.
yeah, it's crazy. I got clipped with that in the last couple of weeks, where I built out a whole campaign. I was like, good, I'm going to use Lovable for the landing pages, but Google rejected them, so I had to end up using Canva. So like, I use Canva a lot.
How? Everybody's using Lovable. I am
Yeah,
so
well,
shocked.
Yeah, well, listen, I don't know if it happens in every case, but it definitely happened to me, where I was using Lovable as the landing page for a Google Ads campaign, and
Mm-hmm.
it just, they didn't take it. So it was my first time trying it, because I've actually been using Canva a lot for my landing pages, and I use their bulk create tool a lot, where like
Yeah.
I'll create a spreadsheet, and it'll have all the data that I want to go on the web page, and then I'll create the template, and then I'll say which data needs to go where, and then I can create web pages 300 at a time, on Canva. And so that's been pretty good. That's a great, I don't know if that's AI
Nice.
or not, but
I don't think
it's a
I've
pretty
ever
great
tried that
tool.
one.
Yeah, it's pretty good. You make a template website, and I think it's only websites right now, but you can make a template website, and you can do
Well,
300
you
at a
can
time.
make templates for just about everything.
Now, the drawback to Canva's website templates is that you cannot put in a Google. tag manager tag in there. You can put Google
Yeah.
Analytics, but you can't put Google Ads tag in there. So, that's kind of, if you have to create 300 landing pages all at once, that's the trade-off, but usually you're in a testing phase for that anyway. So, you'll just have to kind of,
300 landing pages?
if you want to create them in bulk, you can do up to 300 at a time.
Okay.
Yeah.
In
So
which
basically you're like,
scenario are you creating 300 landing pages?
so
I'm
let's,
curious now.
okay, so let's say this is
Okay.
hypothetical. You were reaching out to prospects and you wanted to create for them a personalized landing page.
Uh,
Once they
okay,
click
yeah, that makes
to it
sense.
from your campaign and say, hey, Digital Architects, we have, whatever, some product that pertains to you. And then they check out the page, and then they see their own selves in that page.
Okay, I see the use case on that one. I never thought of doing that in Canva actually.
Yeah, well,
You just brought that to another level. Because I know we could do that, and we use different softwares for that, but I never thought of Canva for something like that.
yeah,
But
like
it
it's
makes
it's
sense,
good.
kind of.
It's good
Yeah.
if, like, like I wouldn't recommend it for like the landing page that you're using. Like, say you're running like a big ad campaign on Google or whatever. I wouldn't use it for that. But like, let's say now customer is in your funnel, and now they're you're walking them through your offering, and then you're like, oh, by the way, did you know that we have these deals for you? And then you send them the link, and in the link is their name, their logo, or the person or whatever, and then the deal specifically for them.
For them.
Like, and then I couple that sometimes with SMS, cold SMS. So like, let's say I do a cold SMS, and
Mhm.
that with cold SMS, the trust barrier is in the basement, right? It's like less than zero. So when they go
Yes.
on and they see that it's a customized page to themselves, then that's good. And I use
The
Lovable for
trust
those
value
campaigns
goes
too.
way up.
Exactly, because they're like, wow, you made this for me. That's so great. So I use
Nice.
Lovable for
Yeah.
that too. But like I just said,
Not anymore.
there are cases where you can't use Lovable, like, so it really depends.
Yeah. I don't. My experience with Lovable is limited. We use
Okay.
something else.
Oh, okay. What do you guys use?
Yeah. Um. So we use our own version of Go High Level, which is
Oh, okay,
it's
okay.
AI Architects is it's the name we've given it, but we pretty much build everything you're saying, but all within that ecosystem.
Okay. That sounds amazing. I mean, that's exactly like the type of thing I'm looking for, where it's like all those, like a Lovable or a Canva, but Go High Level, because Go High Level, like that's like the best I think I found for like all of my serious campaigns run to Go High Level, because I have all the automations built in. I have all the ways to
Yeah,
contact the customer. I have all the text messages,
all
the
of that.
emails,
Yeah.
everything is all there. These other ones, Canva and Lovable, I use for like, second tier level stuff, where it's like, okay, I need to just put
Mhm.
something in front of the customer that they're going to resonate with.
Yeah, so we do a combination. So a lot of what we're doing it's high level, and we do a lot of WordPress,
Mm-hmm.
just the flexibility it offers, and those are kind of our go-to, honestly. Obviously, we're always trying new things, and because we do the marketing and the AI automations, we will have to go outside of those two to do the bigger integrations where we need to call on APIs and things like that. So for that, we're using a combination of Zapier, Make, and NAN. There's a couple other ones that we can also use. And right now, I'm trying to kind of really go out and build bigger systems, or bigger systems that we can then integrate and combine with high level for some of the bigger things that we need support for. And we're
Mm-hmm.
using a combination of NAN with API calls to different models and full on databases, and to just go bigger.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Go bigger. You know what? We're at the point where like you either get on the bandwagon and start using all of these tools, or and the way I see it from our marketing agency perspective is it doesn't necessarily replace people. You still need people to do a lot of the things that we do, because you still want that human touch, but at the same time we can increase capacity significantly, and do use all of these tools and resources to help the team's production and output.
Right.
And obviously it's busy, right? So if there's any ways that of things that we can implement that will make their life easier, why not?
Right.
Why not try?
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's, and if you look 6 months ago or even 6 months in the future, right, like it just the speed at which these things are evolving is it's wild, and it's really exciting, and like staying on top of it with podcasts like these and stuff like that, like is really helpful, because I've learned a lot from doing what I do from other podcasts I've listened to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, me too. And from watching videos.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of videos.
Exactly.
Right. So let me ask you a question on that note. At this point in time, and I know it's rapidly changing, every day we have something new. I know like Gemini 3.0 just came out and everybody's, raving about it. But what is the most promising use of AI for you today? Right?
The most promising use of AI today is, and I have a couple. All right. So how like of recently, the AI has like people will come to them with their issues, their mental health issues, and their things that they have going on and stuff like that. And the AI like gives them bad advice, and has so it's not every case, but there's been at least a handful of cases where it ended fatally for the person. I think as bad as that is, I think that it does show us that people are willing to trust the AI to that point. And if we as a community of builders and people in tech can really be precious with that moment and really be helpful to people in a substantive way, I think that is the biggest promising moment for AI. Like when people come to AI and they're like, oh, I want to look up scriptures that will help me as I'm going through depression, or I'm looking up, encouraging notes as I'm going through a miscarriage, or this kind of stuff. I think that like that's the biggest promise for AI, is like the things that we don't see, that we don't talk about, we don't advertise, but people are still very much using it for. I think that's like that's a really big moment for growth. And then as it pertains to work, I think the biggest promise for AI is like hyper customization. Like one of the things that everybody that I know who now GPT has been out for however long it's been, right? And the and the 5.0 has been out not even that long, and we can see it's like drastically better than the previous one. But all of the data that we've been typing into it has been getting saved, right? Most people I know, ChatGPT is their number one AI that they use, right? And so it's saving all this stuff. And I think that in time, being able to get hyper customized results based on everything that the ChatGPT knows. Like, let's say you've been using ChatGPT since your sophomore year in college, and you're going to graduate now, and you can tell the ChatGPT to build me a resume for each person that I'm applying to that takes into the account everything that you know about me for these last 2 years. I think that is a huge promise. And then for us now, for our customers, if we're doing all of our work within ChatGPT or Claude or whatever it is, and now we have some requirement that the customer is coming with, we can use that. Like, you're always going to need the human input, but why not use? It's like it's like running versus using roller skates, right? You still have to put the human effort to do it, but you can go much faster if you're using the skates. And the GPT is like the skates, where it's like it has all the data from everything we've been doing for the last couple of years, and it can come out with a hyper customized result that really does actually work. I think that's the biggest promise for us that pertains to work.
Wow. Yeah. Actually, those are really good points, right? But I know it changes so in your case, I guess in our case, marketing, digital marketing, what is your most promising use of AI today? Tools, anything that you want to share?
Yeah, I think probably I already shared it already, which is being able to create websites at scale. Like if I wanted to create 300 landing pages before these tools were available, I don't know, man. I don't just I would get another career. I'd probably quit.
Yeah, actually.
Being able to do stuff like that at scale, and we're still only at the beginning, being able to produce things for customers at scale that actually legit, are good. Not like you do kind of feel like you're cheating, but at the same time, the work is usable, right? Like you're like, oh,
100%.
this actually is good. This can actually work.
Hey, listen, you and I were talking about this earlier, stuck in a problem, and you go and I mean, in my case, I went to ChatGPT, use a GPT that's like, a marketing expert, right? And ask about, this question I was stuck on, or this issue I'm stuck on, which has a lot to do with what we're talking about here, digital marketing for B2B, right? And you don't take it all for, word for word, but at least it gives you sort of like a direction. I'm like, okay. Or sometimes it helps to validate some of your, thoughts on a topic or something you want to do. You go and you ask, and if sort of like the question, it's somewhat what you were thinking, then it validates your point, and then you go and you have the full argument with the AI, right? Like,
yeah,
ask me challenging questions or challenge me on this issue. What am I missing?
Yeah,
How can I make it better? And then you can get some really, really useful information out of all of it.
Every time I write an ad campaign, I pop it into ChatGPT and ask it, what am I missing? What points did I, whatever, like what points did I not cover? Or if I were the customer reading this, what would my skepticism points be? What are objections that I'm not covering and stuff like that? And it's really amazing.
Yeah. Okay, well, we've already been an hour into this, and I'm sure we could probably do a few more.
Yeah, definitely.
But thank you so much for coming out and sharing this time with us and sharing your knowledge, especially for our audience in the world of digital marketing, which is so big. Sharing a little bit of what your experience has been with dealing with B2B and digital advertising, which is always so much fun. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I sure hope you come back.
Definitely. Thank you for having me anytime.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for sharing another hour with us. We look forward to the next one. We'll see you in the next episode.